sing for joy. They shall cry aloud and be free. They shall glorify the name of the Lord. It's the blood-bought, the church, the redeemed. Oh, pick up your harps, O Zion of the Lord. Let the earth spring forth with its praise. For the children rejoice from the islands of the sea. It's the blood-bought, the church, the redeemed. And we are in the army of the Lord. We have been washed in the blood, and we are going forth. There is nothing that can stop this mighty moving force, with a shout of praise and a two-edged sword. Every stronghold of bondage must fall beneath our feet. Every prisoner held captive must be freed. For our deliverance has come through the power of the Son. It's the blood-bought, the church, the redeemed. And we are in the army of the Lord. We've been washed in the blood, and we are going forth. There is nothing that can stop this mighty moving force, with a shout of praise and a two-edged sword. Let the earth be silent, the winds cease to blow. Every created being fold your wings. For there's a new song being sung with a new melody. It's the blood-bought, the church, the redeemed. And we are in the army of the Lord. We've been washed in the blood, and we are going forth. There is nothing that can stop this mighty moving force, with a shout of praise and a two-edged sword. Every stronghold of bondage must fall beneath our feet. Every prisoner held captive must be freed. For our deliverance has come through the power of the Son. It's the blood-bought, the church, the redeemed. And we are in the army of the Lord. We've been washed in the blood, and we are going forth. There is nothing that can stop this mighty moving force, with a shout of praise and a two-edged sword. Every stronghold of bondage must fall beneath our feet. Every prisoner held captive must be free. For our deliverance has come through the power of the Son. It's the blood-bought, the church, the redeemed, the redeemed, the redeemed, the redeemed, the redeemed, the redeemed. And we are in the army of the Lord. We've been washed in the blood, and we are going forth. There is nothing that can stop this mighty moving force, with a shout of praise and a two-edged sword. Every stronghold of bondage must fall beneath our feet. Every prisoner held captive must be free. For our deliverance has come through the power of the Son. It's the blood-bought, the church, the redeemed, the redeemed, the redeemed, the redeemed, the redeemed, the redeemed. Yeah. Woo.
Sing to the Lord, all you people. Sing to the Lord.
Welcome to our live stream on the session of Complete Health. It's just my joy and privilege to have Dr. Gerrie Lindeque with me in this session. And we are talking about complete health, spirit, soul, and body. So obviously, we've been spending quite a lot of time together, and you will see a number of podcasts coming out that we have been in studio together. So thank you, Dr. Gerrie, for joining us.
That's great.
So we're going to talk about all kinds of different subjects. We have been talking about different subjects. You know, we are concerned about men that wear extremely long hair. We are extremely concerned about girls that wear very short hair. I mean, it's detrimental to the health. And you know, Dr. Gerrie and I, we touched on some really controversial subjects like how much makeup should a girl wear? Because, you know, we'll let you know all of our research and our findings later, but so much makeup on the skin is detrimental to the breathing and the health of women, you know. Men, on the other hand, you know, if they wear nail polish, it's really beneficial to the way they can attract things, you know. No, everybody in the live stream, we're not crazy. We're just having a bit of fun. Really, it's wonderful for us to be able to talk about the whole being. And when we started out our conversation, you know, the Lord had us speak about John 10:10, where the scripture says, you know, God has come to give us a life full of abundance. It's the enemy that's come to steal, kill, and to destroy. And if we're going to live the abundant life, then we need to live a life that's full of abundance. So that's spirit, and it's soul, and it's body. It's a rare thing for us to have someone like Dr. Gerrie that has really got knowledge about the way the body works and the function of the body, and of course is a man that is focused on living a spiritual life. And so this is a really wonderful thing. Earlier today, we spoke about how much of the life that we live, our moods, our sense of well-being, the way that we actually can live life, a lot of it's got to do with the balance of our life.
Yes.
And I think what we were really touching on today is the balance of your body and feeding it the right stuff, resting correctly, having a balanced life.
Yes.
And the more balanced we can live our life, the greater the chance of our success in life.
Yes.
So I'm going to jump into that and ask a first question,
Sure.
Dr. Gerrie, and say, if you're young,
Yeah.
as we got an audience of predominantly young people here, but if you're young and you kind of feel like you don't have to sleep so much, you can push your body hard, you can stay up late nights, get up early mornings, and you can push, and you want to drink, Lord forbid, but if you wanted to drink Red Bull to get yourself going in the morning and stuff like that, will you just talk about how your body deals with that when you're young, and then what impact it'll have as you get a bit older?
Yeah. Well, when we look at the mineral balance in the body, you can actually test the mineral balance via the Reams urine saliva testing. And you realize, we do a lot of tests, that even as a baby or as an infant, the balance start going out from perfect.
Yes.
And there's specific patterns that develop. The question I have is, I don't think any of us have an idea what amazing genetic potential is in a human being. It's locked up inside of us.
Okay.
The nutrition of the baby in the mother
Right.
can already determine a lot of things. For instance, they found if you're pregnant and you supplement the mother with iodine, a certain amount of iodine, the average difference in IQ in the baby is about 20 points above the mother's,
Wow.
if the mother supplement enough iodine during the pregnancy.
That's
So now we go
amazing.
right back to nutrition in the womb.
In the womb.
And that IQ will last for life. 20-point increase in IQ. There's 1 million people today worldwide are mentally retarded because their mother did not get enough iodine during her pregnancy.
That's incredible. So what kind of, how do you get iodine?
Well, we
Okay.
supplement them with iodine tablets or so on.
Okay.
But in natural situations, you get iodine at sea level.
Right.
And the higher you go up in the Highveld, the less iodine is in soil.
Okay.
So, for instance, in Japan, in the coastal areas of Okinawa and those places, they have a huge amount of iodine, especially in the seaweeds they eat and so forth. And there's certain diseases that are just not known in those areas. So you can So to flip this question around, I mean, what is the potential we have? I mean, if you look at
Right.
people that become sports stars,
Yes.
Tiger Woods
Yes.
or those guys, at what age do they start?
Yeah,
as
normally very small.
very small, you know,
Yes.
and that's why it's so ingrained in them, you know.
Yeah.
So the question is, how far can you go? How strong? I mean, you can make a difference in how tall you are by what you eat at certain times in your life.
Huh.
If you have malnutrition,
Right.
and it could be malnutrition in a Western
Society.
sense, you know,
Right.
if you have a lot of calories but not enough. I mean, you can have too much calories
Right.
and still be malnourished
Right.
because there's not enough nutritional value, and you can be 5 centimeters shorter eventually
Sure.
because your hormones didn't kick in properly at the right times and so forth. So it can make such a difference in your physical body,
Right.
how you look, how strong your body is, your lifelong risk for certain diseases. For instance, during the puberty years, if you give a girl iodine, again, iodine, a very important nutrient, her lifelong risk for breast cancer goes extremely low.
Hmm.
But if she didn't get that during the puberty years, she has the same breast cancer risk.
It's amazing because that's just a short window
Just
of
a
the
short window,
transition
yeah.
from being a young girl to being
Yeah,
a woman.
yeah.
That short window, if you feed the right
Yeah.
nutrients. eh?
Yeah. So
Wow.
your lifelong risk for diseases can go
Yes.
down. You can add decades to your life, and like we said previously, not only your lifespan but your health span. So you want to live at a good level. I mean,
Yes.
you can be. I had patients between 90 and 105 years of age in my practice in Canada. They were still out fishing and running around and doing
Living a
sports,
functional
living
life.
a functional life, you know.
Yes.
Going to Hawaii for a holiday at 97, you know. So
That's what I want to do.
yeah, you know, so you can.
I'm going
you
to
can-
Hawaii when I'm 97.
Yeah, there you go. And you can do that, you know,
Yes.
if you plan for it. But I hear this a lot of times. People say, if I knew I was going to get this old, I'd take care of my body better.
Right.
So they like mess up the body, and then eventually they're now 90, but they're so sick.
Yes.
And it's not because they're 90.
Yeah.
It's because they didn't care for the body up to
Body.
that point, and now it's starting
Right.
to catch in, you know. So you can make a huge difference in your lifelong risk for disease
Yes.
and in your potential, your IQ, your bodily potential, your athletic potential, all of those things by getting wisdom, getting God's
Right.
wisdom,
Right.
and then applying that to your life. It's what you do, not what you know. you know.
Yes. So obviously, as we go into a life transition where maybe you're single and you're meeting a partner, do an IQ test, right? And then no, I mean, you know, it's important that now that we have extra information,
Yes.
we can say, hold on a minute, if we make sure that when my partner is pregnant, when
Yeah.
we're pregnant, let's find out what kind of food we got to eat
Yeah,
so that it
yeah.
gives the best advantage to our
Exactly.
the child in the womb.
Exactly.
And then when they're born,
Yeah.
how can you supplement, how can
Yes.
you do things to
Yeah.
actually give it the very best
Yeah.
physiological chance, as well as that strength of immune system?
Yeah.
Because I guess that's where it starts,
Yeah.
in the womb.
Yeah.
Strengthening the immune system,
Yes.
making them ready for
Yeah,
life.
yeah. And I mean, if you have a baby, it's no fun if the baby is sick all the time.
Right.
But if you have wisdom and you can feed it the right things and so on, I mean, that baby can be a pleasure.
Yeah.
And it can be healthy all the time and never get sick, you know.
Yes.
There's lots of wisdom there.
Yes.
I have a program where I help people with fertility. And so I like that whole thing, you know, it's just with nutrients. With nutrients, you can make a huge difference. People have trouble getting pregnant.
Right.
But part of the catch is I always share with them a few things, you know.
Like
Once
you got to have sex.
Yes, that's true. But I share a few things with them once they get pregnant, because
Right.
now they're very glad they're finally pregnant.
Right.
But there's wisdom around how do you teach the baby to sleep well.
Right.
I mean, and I like to collect these gems of wisdom because it's stuff that I struggled with in my life. Like, how do I get this baby to sleep? You know,
Yes.
it's a problem. You know,
Yeah.
and eventually God helped me there and He gave us wisdom,
Right.
and now I can share that with them and say, look, this is a method you can train the baby to sleep from 6 weeks onwards throughout the night. You know,
Right.
without waking up. And then once the child gets a bit older, this is wisdom, how to teach it to be disciplined and to listen to you without ruining the relationship. You know, there's,
Right.
I mean, I unfortunately had to make all the mistakes in order to learn the wisdom, and now I can share it with somebody. You
Yes.
know?
I suppose in the modern day world, you just give them a syrup that knocks them out for 6 hours, and then please don't do that.
No,
They're taking me way too serious. Yeah.
but it is, if you have wisdom,
Yeah.
and the child's a pleasure and they're healthy, and your family is healthy,
Right.
um,
Your whole quality of life is
it
improved.
influences the family.
Yes.
And the whole thing about family is God's idea.
Yes.
God's idea was a family.
Mm.
And He wants the family to be healthy and happy together and blessed, you know.
Yes.
So if there's disease and discomfort and all kinds of stuff attacking this family, it's attacking God's image in the family.
Mm.
And people say, one child was enough, you know, it's just a terrible thing.
Right.
So in the meantime, they could have had 10
Right.
if it was easy, you know.
Yes.
But the
Yes.
difference is wisdom. you know.
Yes. So, Dr. Gerrie, if you are now a young adult and you have a lifestyle habit where you want to push your body, you want to sleep, I mean, this is a common thing, not just, I mean, these young people are amazing, their lifestyles are really great, but just generally, young people tend to want to do computer games, do social media, want to do things till late at night, wake up early in the morning, get their lives going. And so there's almost this pattern of sleeping as little and having as much awake time as possible.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes their eating patterns are upset, and the image is, well, I'll just have a Red Bull, or I'll have a Monster drink, or I'll do something that is a common, thing, and it helps to stimulate the conversation amongst friends. How many Red Bulls can you drink, before you kind of are buzzing, Just your comments on that.
So the problem there is, and this is maybe the number one problem I'm seeing today in functional medicine practice,
Yes.
is poor adrenal function. So your adrenal glands are those little glands on top of your kidneys that
Right.
handle stress.
Okay.
In the early years, the researchers wanted, what does these adrenal glands do? And they took a lot of rats and removed the adrenals. And they looked at the rats and nothing happened to them until they stressed them. If they stress them, they die. They can't handle any kind of stress.
Okay.
So our adrenal glands have a central core that makes adrenaline, different kinds of adrenaline. But the outer part of the adrenal glands make the chronic stress hormones. And there we've got the outermost layer called the zona fasciculata that makes cortisol. The second layer makes DHEA, and there's other hormones involved as well. Now, what happens is that your cortisol is maybe one of the most important hormones that your body makes. It's a hormone that helps to sustain energy levels. So cortisol pushes against insulin. If you have no cortisol, the cortisol goes too low. Your insulin keeps winning the battle.
The battle.
And your blood sugar tends to drop. So a drop in blood sugar causes a lack of energy. So if you're riding on your adrenals, now your adrenals are amazingly made. The cortisol level has an inborn rhythm, a 24-hour rhythm. We call it the diurnal rhythm. So it's got an actual different normal level for every hour of the day. Your cortisol level is supposed to spike in the mornings when you wake up and you jump out of bed and you have birds are chirping, a lot of energy. And then at midnight, your cortisol goes to its lowest level so you can sleep.
Okay.
And that's part of the reason why the asthma patient will call the doctor at 1 o'clock in the morning. Not because he's got a grudge against the doctor, but because the asthma,
You mean you know that?
the asthma flares up at 1 o'clock in the morning,
Morning.
because that's the lowest natural level of cortisol in the human body. So, there's, again, we talked about the so-called normal levels
Right.
versus optimal.
Yes.
So as an integrative physician that was trained in integrative medicine, I look at the levels at what is optimal.
Right.
So I would do the cortisol DHEA ratio at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I know that the ideal level of cortisol in a healthy person is about 550.
Okay.
So if I do that level, I'd see it's 200.
Right.
I know that guy has got a very poor cortisol production.
Right.
And it typically will be the guy that's tired.
Yes.
You'll be very tired because the blood sugar is dropping. Now, if you're young, like Like I was a medical student.
Right.
So we worked through the nights, many times.
Studied long hours.
All of that,
Yes.
lived on coffee and stuff. And then I went into practice, in rural practice in Canada for 5 years. And I had on call every second night, the ambulance calls you every hour. So your sleep is interrupted. And what would happen, but I didn't realize, I'm young, I handle this.
Right.
But when I go on holiday and I drive somewhere, like I want to fall asleep behind the steering wheel.
Yeah.
Because my blood sugar is now dropping, because my adrenal function is exhausted because of what I've done to it. I've abused it now, you see.
Right.
So now my adrenal function is exhausted, and I keep have a dropping blood sugar all the time.
So that, I don't want to interrupt you, but that actually would speak why when you're traveling on long distances also you want to eat all the time.
Yeah.
Because you have to try and keep your blood sugar levels up.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's so the dropping of the blood sugar. If the blood sugar drops gradually, you just feel tired. If it's a rapid, sudden drop, you get a headache.
Right.
And it can even elicit convulsions in some people.
Wow.
So that's why the adrenal function, very important, first thing for me to check. DHEA, the second hormone, is a hormone that stimulates your thymus gland, which is a gland behind your breastbone. That's your deep immune system. So it helps to boost your immune cells, so you're more active against viruses and germs. But the other important function is it's an anabolic hormone that builds collagen, it builds tissue, especially in females. It's the main anabolic hormone that builds the body. And sometimes you see, if you do that blood test, you see both the DHEA and the cortisol rock bottom. Now, a lot of doctors are waking up to DHEA and they're giving DHEA, but they're not looking at the cortisol. So now they're making the imbalance worse.
Right.
So if you lift the DHEA, but you're neglecting the cortisol, you're going to make the tiredness worse, you see.
Right.
So it's getting insight, getting understanding how this delicate thing in the body works. And it's so simple to just get the blood sugar level even and stable, and the patient's energy will be even and stable. And that'll both, just day-to-day living, you'll have better concentration, better energy. You won't feel like you want to sleep in the afternoons anymore. And you get better sleep at night. But also if you do sport and stuff like that, you're going to be boosted and have more energy. And the blood sugar, if you do hard sports like squash or something,
Right.
and suddenly you just feel like, I can't see the front wall anymore. That's your blood sugar that dropped.
Right.
That's adrenal
Right.
function.
So if you are constantly putting your body under stress, as you did when you were at university or when you were a doctor, there is going to eventually become a health risk, even though you might not feel it immediately.
Yes.
There are hidden things like your adrenals, like your insulin fight that's going to fight your cortisol levels, fight your DHEA levels.
Yes.
All of these things, eventually it will also affect your thyroid.
Yes.
It will affect other parts of your body system. That you might not feel it immediately, but the quality of your life is going to deteriorate, even when you're young.
Absolutely. The adrenal glands has an effect on the conversion of the thyroid hormones from T4 to T3, the active hormones.
Right.
And on the other hand, if you have a low thyroid and we supplement thyroid medicine, that puts stress on the adrenals.
Right.
A lot of different hormone therapies put stress on the adrenals. And if you don't help the adrenals first,
Right.
the guy will initially feel better on the thyroid therapy, but then feel bad again because the adrenals was neglected. So I always go to I see the adrenal glands as the foundation of the endocrine system, and that's the two little glands you're abusing if you're not sleeping properly, eating properly. If you don't eat breakfast,
Right.
and you neglect yourself, you're riding on your adrenal glands, because now your blood sugar wants to drop because you didn't eat.
Right.
So what does it do? It makes more cortisol to get the blood sugar back up so you can function. But after a while, a few years of doing that, the adrenal glands just say, I'm out of here.
I'm stressed out.
I'm quitting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you pay the price in weak energy and so forth.
So a lot of people will have and this is a common theme, and we'll get to some questions in a minute here. But a lot of people will say, I'm not a early morning eater. I don't like to eat in the morning. I don't do breakfast in the morning. So what do you do in the morning? Well, I have a coffee in the morning, and that keeps me going till lunchtime, and then I'm ready to eat at lunchtime.
Yeah.
What do you say about that, Dr. Gerrie?
The natural tendency of the body is to have a dropping blood sugar in the mornings.
Right.
And in the afternoons and the evenings it starts rising. So your body will do what you teach it to do. So you can teach, if somebody can teach the body to smoke,
Right.
I mean, then you can teach your body anything.
To do
You know,
anything.
so it's horrible stuff. So you can teach your body the correct rhythm, like water drinking,
Right.
essential thing. But if you're not used to it, your body doesn't ask for it because it's not used to it. But I can teach my body to
Yes.
drink water. If I do that for long enough, I will actually get thirsty if I
Yes.
don't drink because I've taught my. So the body is something that's teachable,
Right.
and it's just waiting for you to take control over it. So I can tell my body. I'm not asking myself. I'm
Right.
telling myself.
Yes.
You eat breakfast.
So it's actually more of a soul thing,
Yes.
a training and a habit thing. If you say,
Yes.
I'm not a breakfast person,
Yeah.
it's because somewhere along the line you had enough days, enough weeks went by where
Yeah.
you went without breakfast. So your body learned
Yeah.
to tell you, you
Yes.
don't need to eat now because
Yes.
you trained me, I don't need to eat.
Exactly.
So, but that's not necessarily the best thing for your body.
No,
it's
not at
just
all.
that you, through a pattern that
Yes.
you taught it that.
Yes.
So you can teach it something different.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
for me, it's much better to skip the evening meal
Right.
than the breakfast. Because in the evening, my blood sugar is more rising.
Right.
And also, I'm going to sleep in a few hours, so I'm not expending energy.
Right.
So I want to eat breakfast, I want to have a little snack mid-morning, and have my main meal at lunch, and then I'll have maybe a small snack or a shake at around 3:30, 4 o'clock, and I'm done.
Right.
And then I can, well, you don't have to, but I asked my one mentor, Dr. Sandy Beddoe, how do I lose weight on this program?
Yes.
And he said, skip your evening meal. And I said, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
so that just helped me, to do that. And that 16-hour fast, it's also very good for your gut health.
Right.
And it's good to go to bed on a little bit of an empty stomach.
So normally you have your last meal, snack, whatever you eat around 4 o'clock,
Around 4
somewhere around
o'clock,
about
yeah,
there.
that's right.
And then you would have your breakfast next morning, 8 o'clock
Yeah.
type of thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that was not my natural pattern. My
No.
natural pattern was like everybody else,
Yes.
to eat at night,
Right.
and to not eat during the day as much.
Yes.
But that didn't work out well for me, and I knew, look, if you want wisdom, you have to do
Right.
what you learn. Don't make excuses. You have
Sure.
to,
So part of the reason people eat at night is because it's the end of the workday.
Yeah.
And they've been trained by lifestyle at home.
Yes.
Mom and dad came home from work, you were home
Yeah.
from school,
Yeah.
and so everybody would sit around the table and eat
Yeah.
at night.
Yeah.
And so it's 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, that's when
Yeah.
people would eat. So now, when you become an older person,
Yeah.
you maybe skip breakfast because your body is still processing the food from the night
Last
before,
night, yeah.
so you don't feel like you want to eat breakfast.
Exactly.
So you wait and you have coffee, then you wait till lunchtime.
Yeah.
Maybe you're hungry now, so you eat a snack or you eat something, but you're just waiting for the nighttime meal
Yeah.
because that's the habit.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a cultural thing. I mean, I understand that some people they must move to Paris, the Free State where we eat lunch,
Eat lunch.
But it's all about trying to do it the way the body wants it. Now, there's nothing wrong with eating at night. My question to Dr. Beddoe was, how do I lose weight?
Right.
And he said, well, if you want to lose weight,
Yes.
just skip your evening meal.
Right.
So if you don't have a weight problem and you eat some at night, that's
Right.
not the end of the
Right.
world. Just have a nice balanced meal. But that was, it's still no reason not to, you still have to eat your breakfast because the breakfast is so pivotal, and the right kind of breakfast, a balanced breakfast where you just get your blood sugar up gradually. You don't
Right.
want to use something too sweet or sugary for breakfast, just something that's got a gradual effect, a balanced meal to start your day,
So, I'm still wearing my blood glucose monitor on my arm, and
Yeah.
I'm constantly measuring.
Yeah.
And I discovered that if I ate something like oats
Yeah.
or bread, toast, and or even toast with eggs or whatever in the
Yeah.
morning, I found it really spiked my blood sugar levels.
Yeah.
When I cut out a lot of carbs and I started eating more protein, yogurt, eggs,
Yeah.
cheese, stuff like that in the morning,
Yeah.
I found it was a much smoother transition in terms of my blood sugar levels rising.
Yeah.
You wanna comment on
that's
that
the
kind of
nice
food?
thing about that little monitor is you learn a lot of stuff about
About your
yourself.
body, yeah.
And it looks, personally I've seen that like oatmeal have a bit more of a blood sugar spike,
Right.
in my case as well.
Yes.
Whereas what I do, I make my hoppy blue porridge, which is a hoppy blue corn or something like that, and I make the porridge and I put it in the fridge.
Right.
And I sort of warm it up. And what you get if you do that is called a resistant starch. So because it was cooked and then cooled down and warmed up again, it's now more difficult to digest, so it digests slower.
Okay.
And if I do that with a protein like an egg, I don't get the spike at all.
Okay.
And you can try different grains, different kinds of bread. Sometimes a sourdough
Right.
that's slightly toasted works better
Right.
than a loaf of Wonder Bread.
Yes.
So you look at the quality of what you're eating.
Yes.
Fruit as well. Personally, what I found I could eat most fruits. I could eat banana or pear or apple, and didn't really upset my blood sugar. But clementines, no go for me. I just went up. I
Wow.
don't think there was enough fiber in there.
Right. Right.
So you sort of learn some things about yourself.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of stuff we can talk about here,
Yeah.
Dr. Gerrie, and certainly one of the things we talked about today, and you guys will have access to the podcast going forward, is rest, and we were touching on it now, how important rest is to the body.
Yeah.
And so the way you said it to me is rest and digest,
Yeah.
or fight and flight.
Yes.
And so that's on a podcast coming your way soon from Complete Health. But rest is important, and the right amount of rest at the right time, so
Yes.
that your body can process and recover and
Yes.
build itself up again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The rhythm. Our bodies have a 24-hour rhythm built into them.
Yes.
And if you respect that rhythm, I mean, even people that work night shift have an increased risk of certain cancers, because they disrupt the normal rhythm.
Yes.
We have the pineal gland in our brain that make melatonin.
Right.
And if that gets disrupted, we have an increased risk for certain cancer, which is
Wow.
which is bad. So we have to respect the rhythms of the body. Studying, I also used to study at night, sometimes you cram through the night when you're a medical student and that kind of stuff. But it's not necessary. It's basically a lack of discipline sometimes. You didn't study when you had to.
Right.
And now you're behind.
Yes.
And now you've got to cram right before your exam. And it's your own fault, really.
Yes. Yes.
So if you're disciplined there, you can still maintain a good
Balanced rhythm.
Yeah, where you're sleeping at the right times and eating at the right times and be productive. If you look at the work of Dr. Caroline Leaf
Yes.
on the brain and memory,
Brain, yes.
you have to respect the amount of time that your brain can actually accumulate facts. And then
Right.
you have to take a break and do it the right way.
Yes.
Um,
Because your brain needs that time to actually compartmentalize it and process
Exactly.
it.
And if you learn wisdom there, you're never going to get in the position where you have to cram through the night and
Right.
then throughout your rhythm. But if you're not going to sleep well, like for instance growth hormone, which gets excreted at night in the first 3 hours after you fall asleep. So if you have disrupted sleep and bad sleep and haphazard hours, your growth hormone level is going to decline, and that's the toning in your body. You grow with growth hormone, but once you're adult, it tones your body, and it gives strong ligaments and strong bones and stuff. And if the growth hormone goes down because of your sleeping habits, you're going to get this floppy body, which you don't want.
Right.
You want to be toned.
Flabbiness. You don't want flabbiness.
Sagging.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Sagging.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I don't see the questions on the screen. One of the questions, if you're not financially able to change your whole lifestyle to be more healthy, where's the best place for you to start your health journey?
I think that the truly healthy foods are the cheapest ones sometimes. One of the if you look at the blue zones where people live the longest, the most prominent food you see in all blue zones are beans and lentils. And beans and lentils are cheap.
Right.
You just have to cook them,
Right.
And basically they would make all kinds of wonderful dishes from everything from fava, which is yellow lentils, and chickpeas and stuff like that, whole grains. None of these things are really expensive. Most people that say they can't afford it, they can still afford fast foods.
They can afford McDonald's or
Exactly.
KFC
Yeah.
or Steers or
Exactly.
Mug and Bean or
Yeah, yeah.
Mrs. Woolworths
Yes.
or I'm kind of just going through my
Yeah,
list because I regularly get a message, who's going to Woolworths?
Yes. So if you want to be healthy, start by I think gain knowledge first
Right.
of all to what really is healthy. The kinds of oils, Stay away from rancid oils, fast food kind of things. I mean, those fast foods suck up that rancid oils. I can't think of anything more unhealthy than those fast foods that suck up rancid oils.
And that would be like French fries,
Yes, or anything deep fried.
KFC type of any deep fried food.
Well, the problem is that the rancidity is already in, the oxidation already took place in those oils. Even if you take an antioxidant, it's too late.
Right.
So they are going to damage your arteries and your system and cause all kinds of diseases.
So if you're going to eat fast foods, we did say this earlier today,
Yeah.
but so more podcasting coming your way. but we did say this, it's better for you to have something grilled
Yeah.
than something fried.
Much better.
So if you're going to have something, have a grilled
Yeah.
hamburger or have
Yeah.
a grilled
Yeah.
chicken or
Yeah.
something like
You
that.
can make healthy hamburger and fries
Right.
if you do it yourself.
Yes.
Like if I cut up the potatoes and I bake them in the oven, I sprinkle them with olive oil. and
Or
I
air fry them.
or air fry them.
Yeah.
That's a completely different ball game.
Yes.
Because there's nothing unhealthy in there. But if I take those potatoes and I dump them in that oxidized oils.
Oil.
I mean, my dad was a farmer, and he liked to save a bit on money, you know. So they would go to the fish and chips place in the corner, and they would buy the old oils, and then they would mix that with the deadline that they put on the cattle for the ticks.
Right.
And I looked at that oil. I told him I don't think any deadline is needed.
Right.
Yeah, just put the oil.
Just
like
put
that.
the oil.
Yeah, it'll kill the ticks for sure. I mean, it looked terrible. Yeah, it was like black, you know. And that's the stuff that make those
That's
things.
going into your body.
Yeah.
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 Sure.
Yeah.
I don't want to see any more. Who's going to go and get fast food now, hey?
Yeah, so grilling it, maybe choose a salad.
Right.
It's available. Just try and get the food as whole as possible. That'll be a good start.
Yes.
The recognizable whole foods, you know.
Right. I mean, I guess it's something that if you're at home and you're a single person, or you're not cooking for a whole bunch of people, an easy thing would be to go and maybe get some grilled chicken and have a salad with it, even have a piece of toast with it or something. But that's a whole lot better than eating a lot of that sort of takeout food.
Yeah, yeah.
And the more healthy you can eat, the better your blood sugar levels, the better your adrenals, the better you sleep,
Yeah.
the better your whole well-being will improve. More focus,
Yeah.
more energy.
Yes.
It's amazing. It's amazing
Yeah.
how it changes your world.
It does.
Yeah.
And you have to look at quality. And that's the thing that people don't look at.
Right.
If I say meat, what is the best quality meat to eat?
Right.
First of all, see how the animal is raised. If it's raised of a lot of chemicals, antibiotics, and hormones, and additives on GMO grain, it's not going to be a healthy product.
Right.
The easiest animal to manipulate with feeding is a chicken. So they generally live about 6 weeks from the time they
Right.
hatch to the time they slaughter them,
Right.
and that's with the aid of chemicals.
Yes.
So I would prefer red meat that has not been at a feedlot,
Right.
but was slaughtered from the grass or from a more
naturally
natural.
fed, yes.
They can feed them a little bit,
Right.
but not entirely. You know?
Yes.
And that'll be a much healthier product, because my chicken didn't weigh at 9 months what theirs weigh at 6 weeks. You know what I mean? So people think chicken is a health food. I beg to disagree. I would rather have the red meat. At least it's got additional iron
Right.
that a lot of people need. And I wouldn't eat.
I want to say you're shooting holy cows right
Exactly,
now. Dr. Gerrie.
exactly. And then as far as fish is concerned, I like our local white fish from our coast.
Right.
There's some concern about some of the salmon and stuff that
Yes.
gets farmed,
Right.
because again chemicals that are used
Right.
in the production of them. So just educate yourself a bit, you know, because I would always we thought, well, salmon, wonderful, and yes, if you live in Canada where the salmons are caught in the river, beautiful, it's a wonderful fish. But if it comes from some kind of a farming operation in the Atlantic where they have to look like special clothes with all the chemicals they work with that they spray on these.
Right.
That's not what I
Don't
want to eat.
that. No.
So then I'd rather have my own local white fish that's
Right.
local. But I generally think that one should look at the blue zones, the guy that lives the longest, and they eat meat but not on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So I like to mix my diet up. Some days I eat more vegetarian, some days I eat a bit of red meat or white fish.
Right.
But I don't necessarily have to have meat daily,
Yes.
because the blue zones don't have it daily.
Daily,
They
yeah.
seem to live the longest. you know?
Right. I mean, that was something that I learned from Sharon, and that was that I mean, she eats a lot of lentils and beans and salad, and so because of my blood sugar monitor, I when I ate beans, I saw that it had an impact and quite a quick rise in blood sugar levels. So
Yeah.
for a while I stayed away from it, but then I realized if I eat the salad
Yes.
before I eat the beans and
Makes
the lentils,
difference.
it makes a big difference.
Exactly.
And it's much more stable in the
Yeah.
way that my body processes it.
That's interesting. The sequence in
The
which you eat
sequence.
can make a difference.
Yeah. And so now, I mean, I eat as much. In fact, it's become much easier for us to eat in the house because Sharon's just constantly making salads, beans, lentils, and I'm enjoying that kind of eating with her.
Yeah.
I just make sure I have a whole lot of salad before I start eating the beans and the lentils,
Yeah.
and it's smooth for my body.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a typical thing in the blue zones. They average have a cup of beans per day.
Right.
You know, I saw this interview that they did with a guy. Well, it was in Puerto Rico, and the guy was looking at the blue zones, and he was to be at a certain point where he's going to meet a 103-year-old man. So he went to the point there was nobody except for this cowboy running around on his horse, herding some cattle.
Right.
So he chatted with the cowboy for a while on his horse. He said, "But I'm actually here to meet this guy that's 103. He said, "It's me." So he jumped off the horse and showed him to him. He's 103. You know, so it's
My
amazing
goodness.
to see what's possible.
Right.
But they had a simple diet, and they like, in Puerto Rico, they like Costa Rica, I mean.
Costa Rica.
They like beans and corn, non-GMO corn. They make tortillas from the non-GMO corn, combine it with beans, and a simple diet like that.
Right.
And they live strong and long and healthy.
Yeah.
Another good example to me is the Hopi Indians in Arizona.
Right.
They have the lowest cancer risk in the world. And the government built them a supermarket, and within 10 years, the ones eating out of the supermarket had a 1 in 4 cancer risk versus 1 in 3,000, the one that ate their natural diet.
Amazing.
So it was not genetic,
No.
it was something in the supermarket.
Supermarket.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So I guess the outcome of that question really is you can, if you really want to, you can eat healthy.
Yes.
You don't need a lot of money to eat healthy.
It can be cheaper.
And if you're on the younger side,
Yes.
you don't have to have a lot of supplements.
No.
You can start by eating healthy, drinking water.
Yes.
And if you just sleep well,
Yeah.
start changing your eating habits
Yes.
and rest and
Yes.
sleep well,
Yes.
you're already allowing your body to do
Yeah.
the healing in itself.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be a complicated,
No.
high lot of supplement
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
If you just get a few basic things right,
Yes.
then you can change your whole health habits.
The body is very forgiving.
Right.
And it will, especially when the younger you are, the easier it will respond to whatever
Yes.
you do.
Yes. All right, let's see. There's a question there about what is your view on the use of Ozempic, the drug being used for weight loss? Is it safe to use?
I think that it's part of the diet culture.
Right.
And the diet culture is a problem. Because
Yes.
once you get stuck in a diet culture, you're going to be on a diet for the rest of your life.
Right.
And it's going to take all the fun out of eating. You know?
Yes.
Food was made to be enjoyed. And we're trying all these gimmicks to try and replace self-control.
Right.
And self-control is a fruit of the spirit.
Yes.
So now I want a diet where I can eat as much as I like. I always remember my dad told me, well, one thing you can eat as much as you like is fish. Fish will never make you fat. You can get fat on fish. You can get fat on anything.
Right.
But
If you
can
eat too much.
You can eat too much of anything.
Right.
Okay, so you have to get wisdom from God.
Right.
Because if you go on a drug,
Right.
if that drug did the job, you have to be on the drug for the rest of your life.
Right.
Because if not, you're going to slip back to where you were the moment you stop the drug.
Right, because you're now drug dependent.
You didn't change yourself.
Yes.
You didn't change your brain.
Yes.
You didn't change you didn't develop your self-control.
Right.
So I have to work on myself. We all have to do this.
Right.
To work on our self-control. And there we have to get wisdom, but eat slowly, chew
Right.
your food, enjoy it, be disciplined in your meal times and so forth. I mean, in cultures, if we look at the French or we look at the Italians, there's not a lot of overweight French or Italians because they have a very strong culture of eating. And the unfair thing is
And they eat a lot of carbs. They eat bread
Pizza
and
and
pasta
gelato.
pizza. Yeah. Gelato.
So I was in Italy for a medical conference about 10 years ago, and I noticed that these Italians look great.
Yeah.
They have great shoes. They have great.
Yeah. They
look
dress well.
They dress well, but I didn't see one overweight Italian that
That
there
you
might have
were
been one,
around.
but I didn't
Yeah.
see one.
Yeah.
Usually, if it was overweight, it was another nation, you know. But
Right.
in any case, but they were very relaxed.
Right.
And the mealtime was something special. They would
Yes.
sit down at the table
Yes.
and visit and eat
And
slowly.
it's a family thing.
Yeah.
It's a lot of family. And also still, I mean, Sharon, I also have been to Italy a few times, and we noticed that actually a lot of the villages and a lot of the country actually shuts down between
Yeah.
at noon for 2 hours. The shops close,
Yeah.
everything. They go home, they eat, they rest.
It's again about God's design,
Right.
which is the family, and making that central again,
Yes.
and not our jobs,
Right.
but the family, and then respecting each other and respecting the mealtime, respecting your body, you know.
Right.
And that's where it starts. It starts with values like that.
Yes.
But they would relax, they would eat, and they often had beans there. We went sort of bit off the beaten track, and some of the restaurants, they had little beans, had little sourdough breads and stuff, and some pasta.
Right.
A lot of carbs,
Yes.
but nobody got overweight.
No. Because they eat in moderation.
In moderation, enjoy it, a lot of olive oil. So all the ingredients were fresh.
Right.
There was no rancid oils, no
Yes.
stuff like that, you know. So, and like the dessert, if you look at the French dessert, it's small.
Right.
My brother-in-law always says, you know, go to a French restaurant, you get very little food for a lot of money, you know.
Yeah.
but that's the idea.
It's the idea.
So eat slowly.
Yes.
Enjoy it, you know.
Right.
You don't need that much. It's not about, I mean, you can have dessert,
Right.
but it shouldn't be like a big bowl of dessert this huge. It
Yeah.
can be a little piece and you're happy.
And
you
you're
know?
happy. Yeah.
So I think we have to get out of the diet culture
Right.
and get rid of all the crutches and stuff, and
Yes.
because it must be a spiritual victory.
Yes.
Otherwise, there's no true victory.
So and again, we talked about this on one of our podcast sessions about the fruit of the Spirit.
Yes.
And I think that was a really powerful session we had. So I don't want to cover that ground again on this session, but just to cover that question, that drug is not a bad drug, but it becomes your dependency on it
Yeah.
in order to have a lifestyle.
Yeah, that's it. Some of these drugs are based on excreting sugar, sort of unchanged,
Right.
through your kidneys.
Right.
And the danger that's involved in that is if the sugar content of your urine
Right.
goes higher,
Yes.
there's some dangerous infections
Right.
that you can get in places
Urinary
where you
system.
don't want dangerous
Right,
infections. You
right.
know, so there is some outside risk there.
Yes.
Maybe they feel that the risk is worth it.
Right.
I don't.
Okay.
I'm not going to take that risk.
Right,
You know?
right.
So
So
I'm
the
sure,
better thing is to exercise,
Yeah.
have self-control.
I
do
think
that
that,
side
I
of
think
it.
that medicine was originally developed for specific indications, like in some diabetics, you know.
Right.
But now to start using it as a crutch instead of self-control,
Yes.
to me that's just wrong.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Gerrie. I see a question there, vaccines versus vitamins. What is your view on vaccines? How safe are they? The COVID vaccine, for example, vaccines for children, should we avoid them altogether?
You ask me some tough questions, yeah.
Yeah, someone maybe that's online is
Yeah.
asking the question, but yeah.
Look, so we all know that the COVID vaccine was no vaccine at all.
Right.
It was not a
It
vaccine.
was a con job.
Yeah, it was really not a vaccine. It was a new technology, and it was not thoroughly studied before it was applied. So that's a whole different beehive if we get into that.
Right.
Personally, I was not in favor of that at all.
Yes.
Normal vaccines, I think there's some place for normal vaccines at certain times, but I think it's totally overdone.
Okay. So, for example, I know there's been a lot of talk internationally. I'm just picking up from that question
Yeah.
of recently in the US, in particular, about the polio vaccine and the measles, I think,
Yeah.
vaccine.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the diseases like polio didn't really decline in incidence because of the vaccine. They gave the credit to the vaccine, but it was the flush toilet that did the job.
Ah,
Because better hygiene
Okay.
started coming in, and polio started reducing. When we lived in Canada, like the polio vaccine is in an oral form, little
Right.
drops.
okay.
But the Canadian government didn't think that it was safe to administer polio vaccine in oral form because of a disease you can get from the vaccine that can permanently affect your brain. Now, it's not a huge incidence, but there's some people that took that oral polio drops and they had this brain disorder for the rest of their life. So in Canada, they gave the polio vaccine in an injectable form.
Right,
That only lasted for 10 years, but the Canadian government thought it was safer.
right.
So just as one example.
We used to do that in South Africa when I was growing up.
Yeah.
We used to have an injected,
Shot.
yeah.
But now they do drops, and so on. So yeah, but if you think about the general schedule, I mean, they immunize the baby at 1 month, at 3 months, and 6 months. Most of those vaccines, by the time the child is 2 years old, they don't work anymore. They just work. They just cover him for a short time,
Okay,
and you cover him from like 100 diseases.
right,
It's a bit neurotic.
Yes.
I mean, it's like somebody's making money off this,
right,
I mean, chicken pox.
right.
We got chicken pox as children. I mean,
Yeah.
the neighbor's kid got chicken pox. My mother would take us there to visit. Yeah, get it and get over with, So that's the kind, all of those diseases. So there's certain vaccines that might have a role. I think there's certain diseases you might consider, but maybe when you're a bit older, at interspaced intervals and so on, like for instance, German measles maybe might not be a bad idea
Right.
for a lady that's in childbearing age,
Right.
So you should think about the vaccines that you're using. What is the purpose? Maybe there might be a reason to give 1 or 2 vaccines for certain specific indications.
Yes.
But to just blanket give a little baby hundreds
So
of
many
vaccines.
vaccines.
I mean, our first child we was born in Canada, and
Right.
he had the whole thing, and then we started reading and getting involved in integrative medicine. And so our second one was born in South Africa, and she didn't get any vaccines, and she never got sick.
Right.
Yeah, she's still very healthy today.
Yes.
We gave a couple, maybe when she went to university, I said, time for German measles and maybe 1 or 2 things,
Right.
But she was never sick.
Right.
She got good nutrition.
Right.
I mean, you can prevent. I saw as a general practitioner that I was seeing a lot of kids with repeated upper respiratory tract infections, sometimes as much as 50 a day,
Huh.
and a lot of them were in daycare when all the parents were smoking. There was some reason why they got this over and over. I looked in the file. They already had antibiotics 10 times
Right.
by the time they're 2 years old.
Right.
And of course, doing that will hit the microbiome and they become more and more susceptible
Right.
to the next infection. So I would start working with vitamins, and I would give them vitamin A.
Right.
The most important one is vitamin A,
Right.
because that enhances the integrity of the mucous membranes. And you can use cod liver oil,
Okay.
or you can use this as a vitamin A supplementation.
Right.
And immediately when I started vitamin A and sometimes vitamin D and certain vitamins, I cut off my business. I mean, they didn't come anymore. It was terrible. So
Because the mucous membrane is the first filter of those,
Exactly.
all of those.
if you think about the
diseases.
immune system, the first contact is of your mucous membrane.
Right.
So the mucous membrane always got a little shiny bit of liquid.
Right.
So in that liquid, you've got an antibody called IgA.
Right.
So IgA is a non-specific antibody that will attack any germ. And the IgA levels get enhanced when you have a good, strong microbiome. So if you're going to take antibiotics, it hits your microbiome, your good germs, so your IgA levels go down. So they are making repeat business, you see.
Yes.
And
And actually, you're destroying your ability to recover from sickness, or your
Yes,
child's
yeah,
ability
yeah.
to recover from
Yeah.
sickness, more and more, increasingly deteriorating
yeah.
with antibiotics.
so far so that if an antibiotic, sometimes an antibiotic is needed.
Right,
We have to face that. You
Yes.
need it, it can save your life.
right,
But many times you just want an antibiotic for convenience sake, and it's not
Yes.
the right thing to do.
Right.
But if the antibiotic is needed,
yeah,
it might be the old-fashioned way.
right.
I begin with injection in the bum.
Yes,
Might be a lot safer
Right.
because you're bypassing the microbiome to a certain degree.
Yeah,
You're not
okay.
as directly,
it's not going into the stomach, it's
as
going into
much.
the muscular system
Exactly.
to combat the
and
whole
that might
thing.
be a safer way
So
to
that
do
takes
it.
a bit longer to get into your body through the muscle system.
Not longer, it actually is a little bit quicker.
Oh, is it quicker?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just more painful.
Yeah.
But that, or an IV, has less of an effect than the oral.
Yes, yes.
So that's one way of looking at it, but you have to really see do you need an antibiotic? Many times it's a virus infection,
Right.
so it doesn't react to antibiotics.
Yes.
And then you have to maybe do a natural antiviral,
Right.
like thyme oil. I love thyme oil.
Yes.
Just an amazing thing for killing a virus. High dose of zinc. You combine zinc of quercetin. We learned a lot of stuff during the COVID pandemic. What can arrest a virus? Look, a virus can be arrested
Okay.
if you act quickly.
Right.
You don't wait 2 days
Yes.
and then do something about the virus, because
Right.
then it's developed.
Right.
But if you respond quickly to a viral attack, you can arrest it.
Right.
And one of the things we do in somebody with a underactive adrenal system, we give them a little bit of natural cortisol in a physiological dose for about 3 hours after the onslaught. And that can abort the viral infection completely. It's called an adrenal boost.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Sure. So how can you build strength and muscle while you're eating healthy on an affordable budget?
It's easy. I have a Brahman bull on my farm.
It's a beers.
It's a big bull. He
Yes.
weighs 1,100 kilos.
Okay.
And he's a vegetarian. And
He
he's-
doesn't eat eggs.
No. No eggs, no protein.
No whey
shakes.
protein.
No.
No,
Doesn't catch hairs or anything with it. He eats grass.
He eats grass.
Yeah. And the grass has, if I give him alfalfa and grass and stuff, his body makes enough protein.
Right.
So,
So humans are a lot more complex animals.
yes. But you can get protein from plants
Yes.
as much as you can from animal sources.
So pea protein, for example.
You have to distinguish between what we call a complete protein and a partial protein.
Okay.
So we look at the amino acids. So there's 8 essential amino acids.
Right.
And you have to get all 8 at the same time to build protein. So for instance, brown rice have a certain portion of the amino acids, but not all of them. And lentils have another section of amino acids, but not all of them. But if you eat brown rice and lentils together,
Right.
they complement each other and have all the amino acids to build protein. It's called a
Wow.
complete protein. That's why in many cultures you'll notice they will combine sump and beans,
Right.
because you make a complete
Complete protein.
Yeah. So that's, if somebody wants to eat a more vegetarian diet, they just have to have the knowledge of what to combine to make the complete protein. Certain grains already are a complete protein, like quinoa,
Quinoa. Yeah.
millet. There's some of
Right.
them.
So if you're just a young person and you're like starting out in life, and you don't even have money to go to the gym, but you want to build muscles, you can do push-ups, sit-ups, you can do natural body strength, and you can eat brown rice and lentils, and that
Yeah.
will help your
Yeah.
muscles actually build muscle fiber
Oh,
and
yeah.
increase your ability.
Yeah.
So you don't need things like creatine, and you don't need things like that. I know it helps because it retains water, but
Yeah.
it's all artificial stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But brown rice and lentils.
You can eat. I've seen bodybuilders,
Right.
professional bodybuilders, as vegetarian.
Yes.
So it's not that essential to eat meat.
Right.
I'm not against meat.
Or whey protein or
whey.
anything like that.
So you have to exercise correctly.
Yes.
If you want to build muscle, it's a different kind of exercise that you do than when you want to build endurance.
Right.
It's completely different.
Yes.
So your long distance athlete will not necessarily be a big guy
Right.
because he'll have endurance.
Yes.
But your shorter distance guy will bigger muscles because he's using the muscles in a different way.
Way.
And many bodybuilders will tell you, well, not there's a certain section of them that exercise their muscles once every 10 days. And they rest
Huh.
10 days. And they do one set
Right.
every 10 days and they become a professional bodybuilder.
So they focus on one set of muscles, next day another set of
No.
muscles. No, they do one exercise in 10 days.
Yeah.
I like that. I want that kind of professional bodybuilder.
Yeah. There was actually a Mr. Olympia,
Yes.
Mike Mensa, that has a program where he did maximal exercise. He exercised an average of 3 hours a week
Okay.
and became Mr. Olympia.
Sure.
But he was scientific.
Right.
So he said the muscle grows while you're resting,
Right.
not while you're exercising.
Yes.
And you have to go maximum
Effort.
and then rest at least 4 days. Otherwise, it's not going to build. You know? So it's just a different way of thinking.
Thinking, yeah.
The other thing that's interesting as far as proteins are concerned is there was a doctor in the United States, Dr. Minkoff, that did research on protein utilization. And he started measuring nitrogen levels in urine. And he found that there's certain proteins that are more balanced than other proteins. The more unbalanced the protein, the more sugar will be conversion will come out of the protein, and the more nitrogen comes out in your urine. So if you eat an egg,
Right.
it's a pretty balanced protein.
Yes.
If you remove the yolk, then you eat only the whites. There's one amino acid missing that's only in the yolk, called methionine. So now 83% of the protein in the whites will convert to sugar.
Wow.
And a lot of nitrogen comes out in your urine,
Right.
which means the protein is not being utilized.
Yes.
So collagen powder
Right.
converts 99% to sugar. It's got a 99% sugar conversion if you take it as a supplement.
Right.
And you've got a huge burden on your kidneys with nitrogen coming out extremely high levels because it's not balanced.
Right.
So he then went and he balanced the 8 essential amino acids till he found a 99% retention. And he could give you 5 grams of the amino acids would equal 40 grams of whey protein.
Amazing.
Without the sugar conversion,
Yes.
without the kidney involvement.
So actually, really, we are experiencing a lot of hype and marketing and a lot of misinformation because there's such a huge industry of supplementation
Yeah.
that they're selling you the good body,
Yeah,
but actually they just want you to buy their product.
yeah. Well, sometimes they believe in their product. It's just
Right.
a misgiven belief. I mean, I always thought collagen powder was the greatest thing.
Yes,
And when I got into the research and I saw what it does, I stopped it.
right.
And I promptly lost 3 kilos.
How
It
about
wasn't
that?
muscle that I lost.
Right,
Yeah.
right. How do I know if I'm deficient in iodine and need an iodine supplement?
There's some things you can look at. You can look at your tongue.
Your tongue.
Yeah. If you're iodine deficient, your tongue will be a bit broader.
Okay.
And it'll kick on the inside of your teeth. And you have teeth. If you look in the mirror, you'll have these teeth indentations all around your tongue.
Very interesting.
It's an interesting sign of iodine deficiency. And if an infant is iodine deficient in its mother, it can become mentally retarded, like we mentioned before.
Right.
It's called a cretin. And they have this big, thick tongue
Okay.
because the mother was iodine
Iodine
deficient.
deficient.
So another sign of iodine deficiency is lacking the ability to sweat.
Okay.
Remember, iodine works on all glands,
Right.
and your skin is one huge gland.
Right.
So if you have a problem sweating, you're most likely iodine deficient, and you have an increased cancer risk.
Wow.
So that's one thing you can do.
I mean, seems like a really simple question, but if you have been iodine deficient
Yeah.
and you have a large tongue, now
Yeah.
you have enough iodine, does your tongue go back to the same size?
If it depends on what age. I mean, if it's somebody that was born that way,
Right.
it's unlikely going to help at that stage.
Okay.
But in an adult, yeah, it can make a
It
difference.
can
if it's
reduce the
later on.
size of the
You
tongue.
just have to use a Symporter stimulation. The iodine gets transported into the cells with a symporter, which is a thing that has to pump iodine against a concentration gradient. That symporter needs energy. So you'll see the guys that are really into iodine research, they will recommend a symporter that stimulates the Krebs cycle, which is the energy cycle,
Right.
to pump the iodine into the thyroid, into the... Now, one of the main problems of iodine deficiency is breast lumps in women and breast cancer.
Huh.
You can shrink, I mean, studies was done with, if you do a mammogram. Now, I'm not... There's some controversy around mammograms because one mammogram equals 1,000 chest x-rays worth of radiation. So I think it's a good thing if you go for a mammogram to take iodine that morning, because it will help to block the radiation on the breast. But if there's lumps in the breast, like fibrocystic breast disease, it's not cancer, but it's just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you take a sufficient amount of iodine, you can shrink those lumps till they are gone. It takes 18 months.
Huh.
And all of the fibrocysts will be gone. And you've taken your breast cancer risk to close to zero. So that's another painful breast, another...
So, I mean, on that basis, isn't it a good idea to somehow use an iodine supplement just as a general thing? And if you do, then how often and how much?
So
and
as a
when do
general
you get it?
supplementation, I would say Norwegian kelp is what I
Norwegian
would
kelp,
use.
okay.
Because it's an organic, friendly form of iodine. It's not too high, and you can use that mostly without a problem.
So if you can't get that, any kind of seaweed, kind of kelp
seaweed is a good source.
Seaweed, yeah.
If you have specific problems, you have to have a doctor, an integrated physician that's knowledgeable about how to use it.
Right.
Because sometimes you go as high as 12.5 or 50 or more milligrams of iodine per day. And then you have to check thyroid function, you have to know what you're doing, use the right symporter. But usually if we're treating fibrocystic breast disease, we go 50 milligram of iodine, which is the same as a coastal Japanese person would get on a daily basis. And we will keep that high dose for about 18 months. But we know what cofactors to give, what to look out for, and how to monitor the patient. For pregnant women, I would give about 12.5 milligrams. And for a teenage girl, I would give 12.5 milligrams to prevent lifelong risk of breast cancer.
Wow, I mean, this is amazing. This question is, how much natural sugar would you recommend people eat in a day? Honey and fruits included.
There's no limit as long as the calories doesn't go too high. It's all about, if we talk about fruit, we spoke about the way the fruit is grown will determine the mineral sugar content. So in a fruit, the sugar is not alone. The sugar is bound to minerals. So, and in the fruit is fiber. You know, it's not like a loose sugar lying around.
Right.
So I can have a diet. I mean, in the Garden of Eden, they had fruit.
Yes.
And that was their diet, fruit and nuts, you know.
Yes.
But the fruit was very different from what it is now. The sugar content of the fruits in the garden was likely 10 times higher because the mineral content was about 10 times higher. So we have to understand that in fruit, the sugar is not loose, like in a pot of sugar.
Right.
It's bound to minerals, and it delivers the mineral to the human body.
Yes.
And there's fiber that causes the sugar to be released gradually in your system. So it's not about a specific quantity. It's about eating in moderation, you know. But you can have a very healthy diet of fruit and nuts.
Yes. I don't know if you can hear anymore. Can you still hear Dr. Gerrie? Are we doing all right on the broadcast, on the sound on the broadcast? I don't know if it's coming through. I know there was a question about vision, eyesight. Is it possible to improve your vision through your diet and nutrition?
Very much so. It depends what the problem is. Like, there's many different reasons why somebody would have a problem with vision. One of them might be, say, cataracts.
Right.
That's especially in older people, or in people with diabetes.
Yes.
They get sugar damage of the lens.
Right.
and a cataract forms. So by eating a more balanced diet, where your blood sugar doesn't give peaks and troughs all the time, you're going to get less glycation damage to your lens,
Right.
and you'll maintain cataract-free eye for much longer. When you look at the back of the eye, you've got your macula. The macula is your yellow spot, and that's where the fine concentrated light hits the eye. And that is dependent on a certain antioxidant called lutein. So lutein, if you have enough lutein in your diet, the yellow spot in your eye will remain vibrant. I've seen in people in their 90s, and my sister is an optometrist,
Okay.
and she showed me pictures of people with their eyes in their 90s with a pristine eye. But the particular person had a very high vegetable based diet,
Right.
with a lot of different color. You want color in the diet.
Right.
The color actually protects your eyes.
Eyes.
So if you're going to have a nutrient deficient diet, high in sugar, your eyesight's going to be damaged. You know?
I mean, that's an amazing point. Again, just to talk about when you're young, your eyesight's good, your body's good, you think, I can eat what I want because nothing's impacting me. And then one day you're into your 30s and you can't read, and you say, well, this is an age-related thing that my eyes are now getting weak.
Yes.
But actually, it's probably more as a result of bad nutrition all these years.
Yes.
And now you've got to go get
Exactly.
reading glasses.
Exactly.
But you could have prevented it if you didn't have steers or KFC every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's many other examples. In World War II, the British pilots ate bilberry jam, and they found that bilberries improved the night vision.
Okay.
So there's many examples of supplements you can use that will enhance vision. So yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
How do I know if my adrenals are damaged, and how can I fix my adrenals? So we're going to just do one or two more questions, and then we're going to call a wrap on this thing.
Sure.
So,
Okay, so adrenals are damaged usually when you have weak energy, when you are tired.
right.
In the first place, even before you look at the thyroid, you should look at the adrenals. If that natural cortisol level is suboptimal at 8 o'clock in the morning, you've got your answer right there. And what you can do, you can feed the adrenals,
Right.
you can rest the adrenals, and you can supplement them. So feeding them would be specific nutritional things like vitamin C, vitamin B5. There's some things that will help to support them. Resting them would be to eat breakfast
Right.
and have a mid-morning snack, and try and keep your blood sugar, support your body to keep the blood sugar even with your diet, because the moment you're fasting at the wrong times, you're riding on your adrenals to keep your blood sugar up. You don't want to ride on them all the time. So the better rhythm you build into your day, the more you make your adrenals rest. And then thirdly, if they are damaged, I can help you by giving a physiological dose
Right.
of natural cortisol that's prescribed. And it's interesting, if you do a physiological dose of natural cortisol, within a week the patient will have better energy, but over time the internal production increases and they can be restored.
Right. I remember when you started treating me at first, two of the things that you immediately addressed was the quality of my adrenals, because you picked up that my adrenals were stressed.
Yes.
And the other thing you dealt with was my thyroid. And I remember the impact that had on my well-being. After a very short period of time. I felt better, I had more energy, I was more alert. I mean, I felt like a different person just because you were addressing my thyroid and my adrenals at that time. Yeah. Hormones. How do you know whether your hormones are balanced or not? As a young woman, as a young man, as a mature woman, as a mature man? I guess across the spectrum.
Yeah, that's a big question, a lot of different sub-headings. But so obviously in a woman, her body works in cycles.
Right.
And the thing is that you should not accept feeling bad.
Right.
You're not supposed to feel bad
Right.
at a certain time of the month.
No.
You should feel great the whole month.
Right.
So a normal cycle is 28 days on the dot. If it goes to 26 or it goes to 30, the hormones are out. It must be 28 days. And it's not normal to have PMS. It's not normal to have sore breasts. It's not normal to bleed heavily. Like three or 4 days, no clotting. That's what we want. So if any of those things are out of the parameters, you've got hormonal imbalance. Men's
So
hormones.
in that case, the answer is you probably, for your long-term well-being, need to see an integrative,
Exactly.
because it'll change everything in your life if those cycles are normal.
We draw blood usually on day 21,
Right.
which is 7 days before the next expected day 1.
Right.
And we look at the ratio of estrogen to progesterone, and then we attack it from 2 sides. We give nutritional things, because we know, for instance, your ovary needs manganese. It's the most important mineral for the ovary. And all seedless products, seedless grapes, seedless watermelon, are seedless because they're manganese deficient.
Right.
So all of a sudden, all of our stuff we're buying in the stores are seedless. We become manganese deficient. What's going to happen? We're going to see a boom in ovarian cancer and in ovaries not functioning properly, infertility problems. So we would give that lady zinc and manganese in the proper ratio. We give certain B vitamins like inositol in certain forms that the ovary needs. So we feed the ovary, and then we see where the hormones are falling short. Like if she has a lack of progesterone, a certain time of the cycle, we would give a little bit of natural progesterone. And in a short time, she's sorted out.
Right.
And not only does she feel better, but her risk for disease is now so much lower.
Lower. Yeah.
Males, they don't have cycles. They just have an on or off button, you know.
Right.
And it's a bit more subtle,
Yes.
actually, because it's more silent.
Right.
And most males are happy with the hormones in any case, you know.
Yes.
But if you have problems building muscle, if you have problems having energy, problems getting overweight easily, stuff like that, it might be because your testosterone level. I mean, testosterone, most of your testosterone receptors are on your brain.
Right.
So if you have a lack of testosterone, you're going to have a lack of confidence. Testosterone helps to give you confidence. You feel you can tackle a problem and you can solve it. That's
Right.
a testosterone thing.
Right.
Also, you've got a lot of testosterone receptors on your cardiac muscle, so you get fit easier cardiovascularly.
Right.
And testosterone opens up the coronary arteries, so you get less heart attacks if you have higher testosterone levels.
Okay.
And of course, testosterone is on your skeletal muscles, so you
Right.
build muscle easier.
Right.
And sexual function can also be. But the interesting thing is in males, we test testosterone and we test estrogen and we test progesterone, all 3 at the same time, because you can get an over conversion of testosterone to estrogen. And that will cause prostate problems. That will enlarge the prostate.
Right.
The estrogen will.
Right.
And then we can bring down the estrogen level by giving zinc.
Right.
That inhibits the aromatase enzyme, and we can give some progesterone that will lower the estrogen level, and we can shrink the prostate that way.
Wow.
So by looking at an integrative physician, you can optimize things,
Yes.
especially if you're a little bit out of balance and you feel out of balance. Have it checked, you know.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Gerrie. I mean, we touched on this at quite some length in one of our podcasts that we have recorded so far, the hormonal imbalances for women and men, and some of the stuff you talked about now, we addressed it at quite some length, just in terms of lifestyle, relationships that may or may not be impacted by hormonal deficiencies and hormonal imbalances. And it's quite a big subject, actually. So you're right. It was a big thing.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have one more question and then we'll call it quits. I think the question we'll ask is, should you always eat when you are hungry?
Yeah, we talked about that in the podcast about the hunger scale.
Yes.
My wife has one of these nice hunger scales on our fridge, so I have to look at that and see.
Right.
So you get the hunger scale that goes from so hungry that you can eat anything that lies still,
Yes.
to stuffed to the point where you totally overdid it.
Right.
And we want to avoid all of those extremes. So if you allow yourself to become overly hungry,
They call it hangry.
yeah,
Yes. You don't want to do that, right?
you don't want to do that
No.
because you're setting yourself up for
Overeating. Yep.
So I'm not talking about a fasting or something like that. I'm
Right.
talking about your day-to-day life.
Right. Right.
Because now you're neglecting yourself and you'll overdo it. So you have to look at that hunger scale. You can get it online, and there has to be a certain amount of hunger to eat.
Yes.
On the other hand, you also have to realize that your body might be trained the wrong way. So you say, well, I'm not hungry in the morning, so I'm not going to eat breakfast. But if you start planning
Right.
to eat the correct way, and the body adjusts after a couple of weeks, then you'll start getting the cues at the right time. Because your body will first be trained,
Right.
and then you just have to reestablish your mind-body connection, so where you can actually pick up on the cues the body are giving you and respect them.
Right.
Because the body might tell you, I'm slightly hungry now, then you might start to cook,
Yes, yes.
and a little bit more hungry, and you're going to eat. But then also the cue will come, I'm happy, I'm satisfied. Don't keep eating then, the body's giving you a cue, I had enough.
Right.
And sometimes we break these cues.
Yes.
And sometimes it's deliberately done, because they add stuff like MSG.
Right.
I mean, MSG is a powerful appetite stimulant. When they do experiments of rats, if they give them MSG, they become grossly obese. And they add MSG to all kinds of fast foods to make you buy more.
Right.
But you're not going to do that to yourself.
Yes.
Because now it's a neurotransmitter
Right.
tricking your brain into thinking you're not really full, and you are.
Yes.
So don't be stupid. Don't add that to your diet now.
Right.
You're gonna,
Right.
just read MSG if it's on there.
Because it's tricking your brain to say you're hungry, but you're not really.
you're not hungry.
You've eaten
Yeah.
enough food.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we don't want to do that. We
Don't
want
wanna do that.
to re-establish that delicate connection.
Right.
We all like that. We were little, and we're fortunate. I mean, when you had enough,
Right.
but that mechanism can be broken,
Yes.
and then you just keep eating, and that's not good, or the other way around. Be scared of eating,
Right.
because you're phobic you're going to get overweight.
Wait. Yes.
And you have to relax. You have to enjoy the food because God gave it to you.
Yes.
And then just listen to the cue. I had enough. And I think it's important to eat. That's why we must eat slowly
Right.
and chew the food, because you don't want to eat so fast that you miss the cue.
Right.
You want to eat slowly so you get the cue. Okay, I had enough now, and I can stop.
Yes. Wonderful. Well, hey, everybody, I think we've had a really wonderful time with Dr. Gerrie here. Dr. Gerrie, thank you very much. It's been an amazing opportunity. Tomorrow afternoon, 1 o'clock, we're going to do this again here in the auditorium. We're going to have Kate and Marcel. They're going to come sit at the table here, and we're going to have interactive questions on Kate being a nutritionist. She's going to ask some questions that maybe can put some pressure on Dr. Gerrie, we'll see. No, I mean, it's just to ask questions. And again, send some questions in. What we didn't answer tonight, we'll see if we can answer it tomorrow. And let's enjoy the opportunity to get more knowledge and information about how we can live better, live healthier, live stronger, and and give God the best chance for us to achieve our assignment. I mean, no body, no assignment.
Amen.
Right? Doesn't matter how much your gift is, how much your calling is. If your body can't handle it, then you can't do it. So let's get our bodies in the right shape so we can complete our assignment and do what God's called us to do. Amen. Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank
Gerrie.
you very much.
For those of you joining online, thank you for joining us, and God bless you.
Amen.
Bye.